Welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week we will discuss tools, tips, and ways to radiate your best life ever, interviewing practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate? Today we're going to radiate health with Dr. Georgia Nab. Hi, Dr. Nab. How are you?
Doing awesome. How are you today?
Good. Fine, thank you. I tell you, I've been so excited about sitting down and talking to you. I've seen you present at a couple of places. I know what you do, but I really honestly don't know much about it. So you are a chiropractor.
I am.
You do epigenetics. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I am a chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor for 24 years. Graduated back in '94.
Wow.
And as you grow and learn more and evolve, in 2005 I slipped into functional medicine, just trying to work with my oldest son and some of his health struggles. And through functional medicine, then I obtained my master's in functional medicine through University of Western States. And with that, then the genetics piece was really starting to become a part of things. Always I've done nutrition. Back when I was in chiropractic school, I always did nutrition as part of my practice, so that's always been a part. But the functional medicine and really getting down to that root cause, and then bringing in the genetics, which is just a whole nother piece of the puzzle, started back in 2005.
Oh, that is so interesting. Gosh, you do so much. So the chiropractor, the functional medicine, the epigenetics, all of that together. And you've been in practice 24 years. It's amazing. I always want to know the story behind someone's journey, right? And it sounds like you had a very good reason to get into what you're doing now. And it was your son.
Yes.
Yes, he was having some health challenges.
He was. He was born at home with a midwife. It was wonderful. Just a great experience in Colorado. And then we moved to Boston and lived there for 3 years. And then my husband at that time got back into the Air Force. This was right around 9/11, and so there was a lot of things going on in our country. And so he was stationed in Wichita. So we moved to Wichita, and Victor at that time was 3 years old, and within a month of moving to Wichita, he had his first asthma attack.
Oh no!
And I remember we had done this. It was quite the bicycle ride. It's called the Wicked Wind, and I just kind of laughed when I heard the name. And I'm like, whatever. What does that mean?
Kansas,
right?
Dorothy, Wizard of Oz, right?
Whatever. And it was you can do 25, 50, or 100. And I thought, well, we've just moved here, and so let's do the 50. And so we're pulling Victor in one of those big trailers.
Oh, right.
And somehow managed through the whole 50. I understand now why it's
called the Wicked Wind.
Because it didn't matter what direction you were going. There was at least a 20-mile-an-hour wind that we were just fighting against. But when we got to the end of it, Victor was struggling to breathe. And I remember this lady who owned a bicycle shop. She just kind of walked by. She stopped and she's like, "Oh, he's having an asthma attack." And I just looked at her. I was 3 years out of chiropractic school, and I just thought, what in the world? Where did this come from? So that began my journey of really trying to figure out, okay, why is it that all of a sudden we moved to Wichita and now he's developing asthma, and so it progressed. And so just on that journey of trying to figure out, okay, what's the root cause, I came upon two things. One, I came upon a chiropractor who, he specialized in scoliosis. And
I'm sorry, what is that?
Scoliosis is curvature of the spine.
Oh, okay.
So when you stand, your spine should be perfectly straight. When you look at someone, and scoliosis is where there's a curvature that shouldn't be there. And so that curvature puts pressure on the nerves, but it also, depending on how severe it is, can put pressure on the organs as well.
Right.
And I kind of looked at him like, no, I've never done x-rays on Victor. And he's like, well, you need to do x-rays. And
he's only 3.
no, at that point he was. At that point we were further along on the journey, and I want to say he was 6 or 7. And so I did, and I was absolutely shocked because I think he was 7, because he was developing a scoliosis of all things. He had 11-degree curvature, and his neck, which should have, when you look at the side, it should have a nice curve to it, 45-degree curve. It was perfectly straight. But the most shocking thing was he had congenital fusion of his 2nd and 3rd vertebrae, which I had no idea. I would never have known if he hadn't told me, you need to take x-rays to see, what's going on with the nervous system.
Oh my goodness.
And so that fusion at the C2, C3, that affects what's called the phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve is a nerve that innervates the lungs.
Okay.
And so that was like a light came on, and first it was like the shock of getting over, why didn't I take x-rays sooner? Why didn't I understand what was going on with my own child?
How would you know?
And then secondly was, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
And so thankfully I had his guidance to really understand, the biomechanics, what I just didn't understand based upon his...
Right, his physiology.
Absolutely. His physiology, his structure.
Well,
and so he taught me how to adjust him in a way that we were able to get his neck back to about a 30 to 33-degree curve. He'll never have a 45 just because of that fusion in there, but that alone took pressure off that phrenic nerve and really helped and corrected the scoliosis. So he responded well there.
Absolutely.
But there's a whole other piece, and that was...
right, that's part of it.
Yeah, that was one piece of the puzzle. And then the other piece was just understanding another underlying cause, which was food, his food sensitivity. So we did food sensitivity testing on him. His big triggers, which we hear so much about today, was dairy and
wheat,
gluten, and what's a young boy's favorite food?
Right, macaroni and cheese,
and pizza,
absolutely,
exactly. And so,
mine too.
It's just hilarious. So trying to help him to understand that. You've got to figure out what your tolerance is, and so maybe every once in a while you can handle this, but he would see that within 24 to 48 hours, he was struggling to breathe and just having some issues. So he's able to connect make the connection to, what I'm eating affects how I feel,
and that's pretty good motivation.
My breathing, so
it
is. Can I tell you a funny story?
Please do.
So funny. So had this. He was at this point, he was 5th or 6th grade. And I'm working full time in my practice there in Wichita. And I had this young 16-year-old girl who she would pick him up from school and just make sure he wasn't home alone. She just a great friend. And so she's like, he wanted to go to one of his friends' house this day. And so she took him. And they stayed for, 3 or 4 hours and then brought him back. And so she called me the next day, and she's like, I know Victor isn't going to tell you this, but let me tell you what happened. She's like, we got there, and he did everything he knew not to do. He ate pizza.
Oh, no.
He drank pop, which I never allow. And she said on the way back, he got so sick I had to pull over because he was throwing up all this stuff. Oh, my goodness. And I just laughed. I'm like, well, he learned a lesson.
Absolutely.
And he really did. Well, he learned a lesson from that. And I just, I think those are good things.
Those are not bad things. I myself am gluten sensitive,
yes.
and I know that one thing I cannot resist is wedding cake.
Oh,
that
yes.
vanilla wedding cake.
Yes.
And so I save up for it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do everything else absolutely right. And this one day I'm going to have some wedding cake and I'm going to suffer for it. And I just know, right? But then I do suffer for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You just find out what your tolerance is. And
So for a teenager, that had to be pretty big.
I think that stuck with him.
Teenagers
I haven't talked to him about it in a while, but I think so.
I think so. Yeah, they think they're invincible.
Yes. Until
they're not. And so he's on the straight and narrow now.
He's great. He really he
Good.
understands the connection between food and how he feels and just more so of what he can tolerate and what he can't. So
Right.
he knows there's definitely environmental because here he lived in California and became a chef out there.
Oh, did he really?
He did.
Good for him.
And worked in a great restaurant out there for 3 years and loved it. And the air is so different out there. He's right in Irvine and right off close to the ocean, so that air was just wonderful for him. And then when he would come visit here, and now he lives here, but he would struggle some, and so some of that's just environment as well, just the air.
Oh, absolutely. Pollens and allergens, the humidity, all of that.
Just very different than what you have on either coast.
It
Because
is.
he never had a problem in Boston either. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, and what you said about having a delay in some of his reactions, like 24 to 48 hours, then he'd have the reaction.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that keeps people from knowing what their true sensitivities are.
Absolutely it does. So those are called IgG, food sensitivities, not true allergies. So IgE is an allergy, but an IgG is a food sensitivity. And those can show up maybe a few hours, just kind of odd, but usually it's like the next day. You just have these odd, one of my patients would clear his throat all the time. And to him that was just,
It's just his tick. It's what he does.
Yeah, it's just, whatever.
His mannerism.
And his wife was funny because I did the IgG food sensitivity testing on him, and the only thing that came back was egg. And she just looked at me and she's like, my husband is not allergic or sensitive to eggs. And I said, well, just play with me. Just go along with me. Can you take it out of his diet for a little bit? And she came back 2 weeks later, and she's like, you're right. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, what was I right about? Because that was 2 weeks ago. So I'm like, well, what was I right about?
Great, what was it?
She's like, you're right about the eggs. She's like, I took them off the eggs like you told me to do.
Right.
And she's like, then a couple of days before she'd come in, she's like, we were in a rush. I grabbed a hard-boiled egg, put it in his hand, and within pretty quickly, she's like, all of a sudden, he was, and she's like, I realized that when I had him off of eggs, he wasn't doing that at all. And as soon as he had the egg, he was starting
to react to it.
He was starting to react to it.
Absolutely.
So that whole sensitivity. So it shows up odd. It can show up as dark circles under the eyes, dilated pupils, hyperhidrosis, which is sweating of the palms that kind of comes and goes.
Right.
There's lots of symptoms that it's just vague.
Right. We never think about that. We always think of nasal congestion, itchy rash or hives or something like that, or difficult breathing. So it sounds like it can show up as many things.
It shows up as many things.
Right. For me, it was all it was just tremendous gut stuff. Right. So and so that was the nutrition part of it, and then you kind of shifted your course again to add more of the functional medicine and the epigenetics. How did that come about?
That came about, so in 2011, my now husband and I moved to Wisconsin to work at Standard Process, which is a whole food nutrition company. They only sell to healthcare practitioners, and it's been around since 1929. This is one of the nutrition companies I used back in chiropractic school.
So it's like supplements?
It is supplements,
okay.
But it's whole food. So it's a very unique company in that they have their manufacturing facility, and a mile from that manufacturing facility they have an organic farm. And about 65% of their raw material comes off of that organic farm. And so they're grabbing those foods that they're making at their peak, processing them. So it's a vertically integrated company that makes really high quality supplements that are food based. How were we designed to eat? Right. And so my husband and I went there and worked there for the last 6 years up until September of last year. And so there it just gave me a whole different shift and look on life and on practice. So now instead of being in private practice, now I'm working in a corporate setting. So I was on site taking care of the employees and their spouses with chiropractic and nutrition.
Wow.
So a whole different...
That's completely different.
Completely different. Gives you a whole different... you learn what compliance is. You learn what to say and what not to say. And so there I had the opportunity to get my master's degree. I wrote a book.
Oh my gosh.
Started speaking to other healthcare practitioners, and it just opened up many other doors for me. And through that's where the genetics really came into play.
Really? How so?
Because with standard process, we were looking at how we can use genetics and nutrition. With the products, how can you use nutrition to help optimize someone's health? So
Right.
it was just my first step in that whole learning process of what I'm doing now.
Right.
Let's not look at genetics. For the majority of people or the patients that I see, it's not looking at disease. It's looking at how do we optimize someone's health.
Yes.
How do we look at those genetics as a piece and say, okay, this pathway, because of these genetics and how things line up, that pathway runs a little bit slower, so I call it hacking the system. Let's hack the pathway
Right.
by using an activated form of a nutrient to get that pathway to really start working again.
Wow.
And it just makes sense.
Sure it does.
It just makes sense, and it works really well.
Right. So many people that I talk to, they think that there's like something more that they're missing in their nutrition. Yeah. They're missing in their health. They're missing in their wellness. There's something that's just they're not quite hit upon. So perhaps that's the missing piece.
Exactly. You still look at, because of my functional medicine, I still look at labs. I still got to know, okay, where you are. So the genetics is the why. This is how you're built. But your environment affects, that's your epigenetics.
It does.
Now your environment is what's really affecting how those pathways are working, what you're putting in or what you're not putting in to your body is affecting those pathways. So we got to look at both of those together. Look at the labs, look at where you are, and look at your diet, kind of take all of that.
It's a very, very individual approach.
It is.
Very personalized approach. I mean, so I think we're finding that, the take 2 whatever and call me in the morning does not work for everybody.
No.
Right? And just because someone's got heart disease does not mean that their drug protocol, their regimen, whatever, is going to work for everyone else.
Right.
Right. This is really fascinating. I think we're really getting to something here. I know that I can hardly turn on a health podcast or radio. I went to a seminar the other day, and it was all about, we always hear about epigenetics now, and how to really maximize the genetic blueprint that we have to have better health.
Uh-huh.
Right. So how do you feel like that's changed your practice?
Oh, I feel like it's optimized my practice. It really has just given me a piece of the puzzle that was just missing. So
Right.
It just helps me to be a better doctor, to understand the patient better, how to better treat them, how to be more focused, and rather than kind of being kind of out here and guessing a little bit, it's just helped me to hone in, and be more specific in how we're treating. So
Right, to look at the whole person and the whole disease, the whole illness, absolutely. And I know functional medicine is the same thing, is
Yes.
that I'm hearing so much more about functional medicine now. The one size fits all does not fit all, and we've got to look at the whole person. You can't just slap a drug on a person or some sort of regimen on somebody. We have to look at the whole thing. And I love how your approach, you started with the chiropractic, got very personal. You took more information in terms of nutrition, and then the functionality, functional medicine, and then finally the genetic portion of it. What do you think is coming next?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, but I'm a learner, so bring it on. Yeah, that's a good question. Because I learn from my patients. I never stop learning, because it's you just don't know what's going to come walking through the door sometimes,
Right.
And so
You strike me as the type of person who you like to get stumped.
everyone's got a challenge and
Right.
a mystery, and so it's I love mysteries, I guess.
Exactly, yeah, right. You love mysteries.
So it's figuring out, okay, what's the mystery to this person?
how do we unlock this?
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
So
really
it
interesting.
is fun.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you're practicing it at your Wellness Connection.
I am, with
which
Dr.
is,
Michelle Robin. She's
that's
awesome.
wonderful.
She's such a blessing.
Great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Of course, we're here in Kansas City, and everyone I speak to is usually in Kansas City. And so your Wellness Connection is a very well-known practice here in the area. So, but you probably, can reach out to many other people around the world, around the country with what you do. Do you ever do distance work?
I have been. There's some other doctors outside of Kansas City that I work with, and so with those patients, I'll Zoom. I mean, with the technology today,
oh my gosh,
we can interact, and I can walk them through their genetics and explain to them, and we can face to face just through Zoom and
you can look at their labs.
I still need to. There's something about looking in someone's eyes and just getting kind of that picture of them. So I need that for me. I know some doctors can just do the phone thing, and I kind of need to see the patient.
You need to see them, absolutely.
Yeah,
you need to read of them.
So much, it's so possible to do that.
Right. It even makes the world your client base.
It does.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I bet you can learn a lot more about regionalisms. And that kind of thing, what's going on around the country and different populations. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Tell us about your book. You wrote a book. So what is that about?
I did. It's called 1 Degree of Change. And it's about my philosophy, but it's much more than that, too. When I was in practice in Wichita, sometimes I'd have patients that would want to do a cleanse, right? And so I'd make some recommendations, and I even tried myself sometimes, and a few too many times, either my patients or myself, after about 3 to 7 days, would just kind of, and part of it is just getting stuck in a rut and feeling like there's nothing to eat. So I wrote this book because, one, patients come in and they're asking the same questions of me over and over again, but two, it's to help patients to not get stuck in that rut when they're trying to do a cleanse. And three, it's not just about cleansing your body, you also have to cleanse your environment. Because where are these toxins coming from?
Right.
They're coming from your environment. They're coming from the cleaning products you're using at home, from the candles, the plug-ins, the
shampoo, the lotion,
the personal hygiene products.
Oh my goodness.
All of that. So it's educating them too about, okay, it's great to clean your body, but you have to also evaluate your environment. And I tell patients it's a 6-month process to really cleanse the home. But in 6 months, you can really detoxify the home and have a much healthier environment. So it's a matter of when a product gets low, using like the Environmental Working Group, who ranks products.
Okay.
They take. Are you familiar with them?
No, the Environmental Working Group. No, I'm not familiar.
You're not. So are you familiar with the Dirty Dozen?
Yes.
Okay.
Are they responsible for the Dirty Dozen?
They are.
And the Clean 15?
Yes, that is the Environmental Working Group. So their website's www.ewg.org. So
Good.
Environmental Working Group.
ewg.org.
Exactly.
Good. Got it.
And their website is very user-friendly. And it's full of information, but you can put in a product on their website, and it will rank it from either a 1 to a 10 or an A to an F. So I tell patients you want C to be your cutoff. You're like, okay, I will not buy a D or an F. C's my line. Or if it's a 1 to 10, then 5 is your cutoff. And there you're shifting into a product that's safer for you, but it's also safer for the environment. Because you're making a statement to these companies that are making these toxic chemicals that, you know what, I'm not going to buy those anymore.
Exactly.
And it will affect them. One by one, it will affect them, and they will shift. And we're seeing it, where they're shifting into better products, safer products. And so when a product gets low, then you check it on their website and look at how safe it is, and then when you're at the store, you buy something that's safer. Now, the other thing they have is an app. It's a free app called Healthy Living. So when you're at the store, you can also scan the UPC code, and you can rank it right there as well. So it's called Healthy Living.
Healthy Living app.
That's the app.
Yeah.
And
that sounds wonderful.
It makes it so much doable to begin to shift towards having a cleaner home, a safer home for you and your family.
Yeah, I know that it gets to be really hard when you're trying to live cleaner, live greener, just do things that are more healthy. It's like you have to watch so many different things, and you have to do so much research and so much homework. So I'm really glad there's a tool like that to help.
There is.
And so is all that information in your book?
Some of that is in my book, yes.
Okay.
There's a questionnaire in my book on environmental. So it's an awareness questionnaire about asking questions about, do you use this, are you using this, and just a number of different questions to bring awareness to some of that. And then the website's in there as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. And what's the book called again?
1 Degree of Change.
1 Degree of Change.
Yep. So if they go to my website,
Which is?
it's authenticdoc.life. Then they can download a PDF version of my book. It's 132 pages at no charge. Or they can come to your Wellness Connection, and it's $15 for a hard copy. So it's got all that, and then there's tons of recipes. I have a pantry list, 2 different pantry lists in there of what your pantry should look like, and then tons of just great recipes. It's gluten-free, it is dairy-free, it's just really awesome recipes. And the fun part is, my husband took most of the pictures. So one Sunday, it's so funny, we knew we needed pictures of foods. And so one Sunday, we got up early and we spent all day. I was in the kitchen cooking, and he had this whole studio set up in our kitchen and took some amazing pictures that you'll see in the book as well. So it was fun. But by 4 o'clock, I will tell you, by 4 o'clock, we were both like, okay, we're done eating. And because the food was all there, it's like you don't want to waste it, and it's so good, but it was so much fun.
Oh, I love that! I'll bet people will just really enjoy that book.
Yeah,
I can't wait to read it. That is so great. Authentic Doc, as in doctor. Authenticdoc.life.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great! And what made you decide you wanted to take all this and put it into a book? You were just tired of having to tell people the same thing over and over again.
It really was, and it gave. It helped my patients, but it helped other doctors as well. So the book is it's published through Standard Process, and so so it's not on Amazon.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So it's sold through healthcare practitioners, and it's helped so many practitioners to be able to. It's helped so many practitioners to just be able to say, here's the answers here.
Yes.
Understand that. Here's the the healthy fats. Understand the healthy fats. So which is a fun one. So the healthy fats, think of bacon. Right? When you think, okay, bacon is not healthy, right?
I'm kind of praying it is, but
if it's uncured, then I'm okay. But bacon, so B is for butter, preferably organic. A is for avocado and avocado oil. C is for coconut oil, coconut flour, coconut milk.
Right.
O is for your omega-3s and olive oil and olives. And N is for your nuts and your nut oils. Those are your healthy fats.
So bacon is healthy.
Exactly. But it helps, that little acronym makes such a difference, because I say that and patients are like, okay, those are the fats where I need to center on and leave the other fats alone. Just really focus on those healthy fats.
It really makes it easy.
It does.
Well, and having just that website, the reference, the recipes, and all those lists together in one place.
Yeah.
As a consumer of health and wellness, I know it just gets overwhelming sometimes. It really does. And you just want to say, let me look at one thing. Let me just have one resource.
Yes.
Thank you.
That you can trust.
Yes. Thank you for putting that together.
It's so confusing out there.
Oh, it really is. One day you hear this is healthy, and another day there's a report that it's not.
Yeah. Oh, we're hearing that on coconut oil. It's like, it's good, it's bad, it's saturated fat. It's a healthy fat. It really is a
that's
healthy
where you
fat.
stand, is a healthy fat.
It truly is a healthy fat. Yes, it is saturated, but it's a healthy saturated fat. Very beneficial, lots of health benefits to it. And very stable when you're cooking with it. So,
right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
2 thumbs up for coconut oil.
2 thumbs up for coconut oil. And all coconut products, too?
And all coconut products. Coconut flour is so rich in fiber. So it's you want to kind of mix it with, let's say, some almond flour. If you're doing a gluten-free recipe, you can kind of blend those two, so you're really beefing up the fiber.
Wow.
And it gives you a little bit of coconut flavor to it as well, but it's great to cook with.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's good for you.
Yeah. So one of my favorites is to take chicken, make it into little strips. So I'm making chicken strips, right? But I'm making them in a good way. I'm using coconut oil, and then I take the chicken strip and put it in a little bit of egg, and then I roll it in the coconut flour, and then I cook it in my coconut oil. And I mean, he loves it. It's just amazing. So
That sounds wonderful.
it's super easy to do and super healthy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, that's quick
it
and
is quick.
easy.
Yep.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so if someone is like on a healing journey and, I don't know, what do you think where do we get the most bang for our buck in terms of what do we want to change and how do we want to be healthier? Is there a big bang for the buck, do you think?
Wow.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Well, there's so many things.
There are so many things. I mean, there's so many ways we could look at it, right? Nutrition.
Absolutely. Get the sugar out, probably.
Oh, okay,
It's
get the
probably a big
sugar
one.
out.
Yeah.
What does sugar do to us?
It causes inflammation
Okay.
in the whole body. So
Right.
just and it's addictive.
So that would
Just
be
a
a big
bad
one.
guy. Yeah,
Right.
that would be the big guy. And you got to read every label.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Even your seasonings. When I was in Wisconsin, I was looking for it was a pepper blend, and I read the label and I was just blown away because on the front it was like a pepper, lemon pepper, I think.
Right.
And the first ingredient, guess what the first ingredient was?
No sugar.
It was sugar, and then the second ingredient, salt.
Oh
Third
my.
ingredient was pepper. I just was blown away. So you have to really, even with seasonings, you really have to read the label. And if it has sugar, put it back on the shelf.
Oh, I had no idea that was in that.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
I'm always surprised at how much sugar yogurt has, even plain yogurt.
Yeah, lots.
Yes. And now, are there some sugars that are like not so bad for you?
In my book, I talk about using just your fruits as a sweetener. So use
Yes.
banana, use dates as your sweetener, a little bit of honey. But those natural
Right.
sources can be used. When you're cooking, bananas and dates work really well. I have a key lime pie recipe that's raw food.
Oh my
Raw
gosh.
food. There's no sugar. I use dates and avocado and limes for the actual key lime part, and some nuts, cashews. Oh my gosh, it tastes just like key lime pie, but it's just raw food. There's no sugar, and then I use a nut crust
Yeah.
on it, and it's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds wonderful.
It is,
Oh my
and it's so
God.
easy again. But you can still have that kind of those sweets, but using just whole foods.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be whatever you grab off the shelf.
No, it doesn't have to be the sugar.
Right, absolutely. Is that in your book?
That recipe is not in my book.
Oh,
I know.
maybe you need to write another book.
I'm working on that actually.
Are you?
Yeah.
Wonderful. What's the
So-
focus of that one going to be?
More on the genetic part. So looking
Super.
at So I'm still putting it together. But more on the genetic and how to hack using nutrition and food to really understand. Okay,
Right.
if this is your genetics, then here's
This is
some-
how to hack it.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and people think about, my mother had diabetes. Her mother had diabetes. That means I have diabetes.
No.
And that's not the case, is it? How do we avoid that?
You stand back and look at your environment and what you're putting in your body and change 1 degree. Make 1 degree, put yourself on a different path.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because we don't have to inherit those things.
Oh,
at
no,
all.
no. Those genes, we're either turning them on or turning them off, right? So
Exactly.
you just don't want to turn those diabetic genes on.
Right.
You want to keep them off.
Yeah.
And that is truly environment. Type 2, I'm talking type 2.
Type 2, right, not type
Not
1.
type 1.
But even cancer, too. People say, oh, I've got this gene for cancer.
Oh, right, like
Right.
the BRCA. Yeah.
Right. And then that's not necessarily the case. We don't have to turn that on.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're living, you really reduce the risk of turning that on if you're living a healthy lifestyle and aware of your genetics, like the methylation, and you can do some amazing support to really keep from turning those genes on.
Now, okay, so functional medicine has been in the news a lot and in conversation a lot. Epigenetics is a lot as well. And now you mentioned methylation, which I'm reminded that is another big hot topic right now. What is methylation? How does it affect us?
How I explain it to patients is that methylation, our DNA has what are called methyl groups on it. And when we have those methyl groups, our DNA it's tightly wound and it's protected. So those methyl groups are protecting our DNA. When we don't have methyl groups or they're just not working right, that DNA can unwind and it can be exposed, and then it can be damaged from free radicals, oxidative stress, from those things can cause damage. So we want healthy methylation to protect our DNA. But we also need methylation to help for some of these pathways to work well. So that's methylation in a real quick
nutshell.
Yeah.
And so how do we ensure healthy methylation?
Diet is key. So lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of cruciferous vegetables. So your broccoli, cauliflower, radishes are a cruciferous vegetable. Kale and all those greens that are so rich in nutrients. Those are great ways to provide methyl groups and betaine and those B vitamins as well to help protect our body, the antioxidants as well.
So talking to you,
it's kind of basic.
It is kind of right, exactly. It's what your mom told you.
Yeah.
Eat your vegetables and fruits.
Yeah.
And talking to you, it sounds like really we don't ever have to be ill.
Well, I think, life happens.
Of course.
It just does. So, you say that. And so we're coming upon what's called the flu season, right?
Right.
Well, sir, we can get the flu anytime, right?
Right.
But I think I think people are more susceptible to getting the flu because during this time, there's Halloween, there's Thanksgiving, and there's Christmas, and what are we doing? We're eating tons of cookies and sugars, and we're going to parties, and we're out late, and we're under a lot of stress. So what happens to our immune system? It goes down.
Right.
So it's not that there's, to me, it's not that there's like a flu season. It's just, are you doing what you need to do to keep a healthy immune system so that you don't get the flu or the cold?
Absolutely.
So if you're looking at these three big holidays, which are full of sugars and lots of carbs and lots of stress, but you're coming from the view of, I'm just going to say no. It's not that I can't.
Yes.
It's that I don't.
Right.
Right? We've got that whole 1 degree shift in your mind of, it's not that I can't have that cookie. It's that I don't want that cookie. I don't want to risk getting
I choose
sick.
not
I don't
to.
want to feel blah. Yeah.
Right.
So that shift helps patients to be able to say, no, I just don't. I just don't want it because I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get the flu.
Right.
So
well, and we always feel
sense?
Of course it does. Right. Where it's the same thing as what your son went through. It's like I can eat this pizza, but I know I'm going to suffer for it.
Exactly.
And I'm choosing not to suffer for it.
Exactly.
I've had enough of that.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you feel after you eat something like that? Oh my gosh, you feel sick and terrible.
Yep.
And I have to admit, sometimes on Halloween night, I will let my daughter just gorge on candy, and then she feels terrible, and she doesn't want it for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much for her to get to that point.
Right.
But if we could just kind of skip ahead to the, I don't want to feel bad, then we can do that. And so maybe we have to look at the reasons why we take on this stress, the reasons why we eat. It feels like this is part of it.
The mindfulness that you teach,
The
right?
mindfulness that I teach,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just being mindful of what you're putting in your body. That's where, what you teach really comes into play, I think. So.
It does, exactly. Being mindful of our emotions and being mindful of the things that are behind our emotions.
Yes.
And of course, in my work, I always talk about emotion and illness and how when we have these lower form emotions, it weakens our resistance again, and our body very effectively lets us know what we need to look at in terms of shoulders, anything with shoulders. And this is what I'm dealing with right now, is shoulder pain, is responsibility. And anything with our feet is moving forward. Anything with our gut is what am I not stomaching? And just kind of in a nutshell, but just working with emotions and mindfulness in terms of what's going on in our body and letting our body lead. And tell us about that.
Just listening.
Just listening.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
It all goes back to just getting quiet.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Listening to our body. Oh my gosh. It has been such a joy to talk to you about health and how we can live better, feel better, eat better, treat ourselves better. I mean, my gosh, you're doing such great work.
Awesome.
I just love it. So
Thank you, Christy.
Oh, you're welcome, Georgia. Yeah, so the website is authenticdoc.life.
That is correct.
DOC, doc. And then the book is One
Degree of Change.
1 Degree of Change. Sounds so simple.
Yes.
It really does. And so your website, a link to get the book, etc., your bio and everything will be in our show notes. So,
Okay.
And you can reach out and work with people all over the world, basically. So, anybody who's not in the Kansas City area, please feel free to hit up Dr. Knapp, and she can, perhaps advise or work with you. Good. Thank you again, Georgia.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blessing.
It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Radiate Wellness is a community of holistic and alternative healers and consultants based in the Kansas City area, dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.